Create watercolor magic without the mess? I'm testing these new water-based markers to see if they're truly worth your time, especially for achieving super smooth blending and those vibrant pop-off-the-page colors. Let's see if they earn a permanent spot in our daily sketch kit. Let's go ahead and do a little experiment and see if these markers can work like a watercolor. Let's create the girl and her teddy into a watercolor painting with water-based markers. Let's go. So let's get into the video. So these is the Artist Series water-based markers, double tipped. There are 24 colors in here. It comes in this really hard case and different wells that organize the markers, and it also has a handle, a little hook here to hold this down, but that's been broken off. And here's the receipts. Dollararma, $5. So this is what the back's looking like. They're water-based markers. They're double tip. There's a fine tip and a broad tip. So I'm going to show you that now. So they come like this with the brand and the type of marker. And they tell you which side is the broad and which side is the fine tip. The color and the number is on both sides. So at first glance, I'm going to tell you right now, this I wouldn't call as a fine tip at all. It's more of a blunt tip. So I don't know why they said fine tip. And then here is the broad tip. And already I don't like that the little felt is kind of off. But like I said before, I don't normally do the swatches. These are the swatches of all the different colors here. I put the number and the name. And even like, I'll just grab this paper bag for instance. They're not kind of smooth. Like they're not really blendable. They're kind of streaky. I'm gonna go with some browns. And we're gonna start off with the bear. What we're gonna use for this experimentation is the markers. We got our drying. We got a container with some water. We got some paper towel. And a paintbrush. Okay, so let's begin. The first time I used these markers was on a piece of printer paper, which I think it did relatively well, but I just didn't like that I kept seeing the paper coming up, so you couldn't really put too much ink down on the paper. As well, the paper kept ripping up. But like I showed before, I also noticed that it wasn't just the paper, it was the felt tip as well. So that is also one downside of the markers, is that the felt tip might annoy you a little bit while coloring. This is why it made me to experiment on watercolor paper. Since they are water-based markers, why not use the ink like watercolors? Duh. This is a cold press paper, so there's a lot of texture or tooth to the paper, so you will have to put down a decent amount of ink on the paper. And also make sure that your brush is really wet but not soaking wet, and you will be able to manipulate the ink around. The one thing that I do like about these colors is that they are very bright and the colors do pop. So I do want to give them that for $5. Manipulating them like watercolor was also very fun as well in this experimentation. And it was almost just like using watercolor. The only difference is you're not going from the pen or the tube to the paper. The ink is already on the paper from you using it from the marker. So it might be less of a mess for you if you decide to do this technique. I also do like the fact that there are 24 colors in there. The only downside is there's not a variety of skin colors in here. You kind of have to make do with a little bit of the random oranges like the Marigold 24, the Peach 139 for some skin colors. For darker skin tones, you could use the browns, but it's going to be really hard to kind of mix the colors together, and I haven't really experimenting mixing the colors. Also, another downside to these markers is that they are hard to blend. So if you are using this on a regular printer paper or sketchbook paper, you layering the colors on, even if it's just one marker, it will be very streaky, and the layering too much ink will pull up the paper. However, for also younger children, if you're a mom and you want them to have some markers other than Crayola and make it seem like they have a professional set, this will actually be pretty good to use in a coloring book, for example. This set will also be good for artists on the go that don't want to bring a lot of materials with them when they do some urban sketching or even sketching in the park. You can lay down your colors and then manipulate them with a water pen or a brush and some water. So that way you're not really bringing a lot of different palettes around with you. You just have the one case, which is easy to close. You have your handle and you're ready to go. And it's easy just to put into a bag. I wish that you can build up color without the paper coming up, or even just being able to blend different colors together to mix, such as when you do it with alcohol markers. I believe because of the alcohol, they're easier to blend. So if you layer a different color on top of another one, they will kind of bleed and kind of blend seamlessly, rather than you using these water-based markers and doing them on a dry paper. They won't really blend as much, which is why I decided to use them more like watercolor in this painting over here. But like I said, they are really great for on the go if you want to put down a bunch of colors on the paper. Just take your time with it. If you're doing it dry, if you're doing it wet like I am, you might get a lot better success by using it on a watercolor paper. I also wanted to add, when you're doing this watercolor technique, make sure that the first layer is completely dry before you go in with a darker marker and manipulating that. So it will blend a little bit when you're using water to manipulate the ink. So what are my final thoughts? I think these water-based markers are great for younger beginner artists that are just getting in before they commit to alcohol markers, since alcohol markers are a lot more expensive. They can also be good for intermediate artists as well, especially because if you like watercolor and you want to use this watercolor technique that I've done, this will be great for you. I think as a professional artist, they would not like this because it will be very tedious to try to blend these markers, and they are very streaky. But if you want to sketch on the go and you want to get some colors out, this is the way to go. So again, thank you for watching. This is your artist, your girl, Niall. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification button so that you do not miss any of the next video. And this is how she turned out. I inked her and added a little bit of white for the highlights. Ciao, Niall.